E-Content Development Course, Business Research Methods. Chapter 1, Introduction to Business Research Topic, Scientific Approach to Research in Physical and Management Sciences. Learning Objectives. To know scientific method of investigation, to understand the steps of scientific method of research, to explain the basis of scientific method of research. To ascertain the concept of logical reasoning process, to discuss the limitations of scientific methods in business research problems. The topic for today's discussion is Scientific Approach to Research in Physical and Management Sciences. For a better understanding, this episode is divided into 5 parts, namely: Part 1, it defines and describes the scientific method of investigation. Part 2, the flow chart envisages the scientific method of research. Part 3, discusses the basis of scientific method of research. Part 4, it probes insights into the logical reasoning process. Part 5, it discusses on limitations of applying scientific methods in business research problems. Introduction. All types of research, whether basic or applied, employ the scientific method of investigation. The scientific method is the way on how the researchers go about using knowledge and evidences to reach the objective conclusion on the real world. Business research is often defined as the application of scientific methods to business decisions. But how do we know if a research is scientific or not? Before answering to this question, let us understand the two major classifications of science. They are physical and social sciences. Physical science is also known 2. as natural science. This classification of science focuses on experimental studies and it deals with some disciplines such as physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, etc. On the other hand, social sciences, study of social environment, man and his society. It includes psychology, sociology, geography, economics, commerce, management, etc. However, whether the discipline is physical science or management science, the objectives of conducting research is same. The major objective of any scientific research is to identify and pursue the research path. Scientific research clarifies what exactly the research question is, and it can lead the researcher in the line of logical reasoning process to arrive at conclusions. Therefore, one can say that the research is a scientific endeavor. It involves scientific methods for investigation, evaluation, experimentation, interpretation, and theorizing. Business is an art more than a science. Successful decision-making in a business depends on the skills and judgment of the individual involved. Most of the business decisions are made quickly and are based on experiences. When managers make decisions, they normally use the information that they have already been collected as a part of their accumulated knowledge. If a particular decision is important or if a manager feels uncertain, he may decide to gather additional data pertinent to the problem. Such data gathering is called research if it is collected and organized in systematic and scientific manner. The function of scientific research is to reduce the degree of uncertainty in a decision-making. Therefore, whenever the managers use research, they apply the methods of science to the art of business. More often, the term research might be substituted for scientific method in this quotation without changing the general meaning. No. Research is perfect, but a good research is better than an effortless research because it is done in a scientific manner. Accordingly, it is worthwhile to consider the scientific method as it makes the undertaken research more scientific. Meaning of scientific research. research is a scientific endeavor. It involves scientific methods. The scientific method of research is systematic. A step-by-step procedure is to be followed to assess the validity of conclusions about the collected data by following the logical process of reasoning. The scientific method of research is a systematic method of investigation, evaluation, experimentation, interpretation, and theorizing. It is characterized by a systematic study based on theory and facts. It consists of a number of formalities and procedures. 3. The scientific method and scientific inquiry is generally described as a puzzle-solving activity. For the researcher, puzzles are solvable problems that may be clarified or resolved through logical process of reasoning. In any kind of research, a careful reasoning is essential for producing scientific results. In the reasoning process, induction, deduction, observation, and hypothesis testing can be combined in a systematic way to solve the research problem. Part 2 Flowchart of scientific method of research. The scientific methods should produce the same results even when it is used by different individuals. On the other hand, business research relies on many of the same techniques of scientific research. The scientific method uses systematic processes to move from the need to solve a problem via the creation of hypotheses to testing the usefulness of the hypothesis. Scientific methods consists of 4 important steps. The flowchart explains the key steps involved in scientific research. SWIT P1 Defining the problem. The scientific method requires a clear and well-defined problem in the beginning of the research process. The nature of the problem depends on what one already knows and what one needs to know. The challenge that a business manager faces is not only to identify and define the decision of the problem, but is to convert the decision into a research problem. Therefore, one needs to narrow down the decision problem and rephrase it into researchable terms. Meanwhile, in this process, a scientific research method helps the business manager a lot. Step 2. Collect the relevant data. Data collection is a major step in research process. The researcher has to thoroughly study the different sources of data collection methods. 4. The primary sources of data is the first-hand information, whereas secondary sources are already available data which provides an idea as to how the research work could be undertaken. The relevant data can include existing data, such as reports and institutional knowledge, observational data, experimental data, that includes survey responses, or information gathered via discussions, etc. Step 3. Formulation of hypotheses. In the scientific method, there are multiple routes for developing ideas. When these ideas are stated in researchable terms, then one can say that the hypothesis stage is reached. The researcher formulates a hypothesis which will explain what he has observed, and it is an assumption about the population. Step 4. Testing of hypotheses. This step involves testing the hypothesis against empirical evidences such as facts from observation or experimentation. Hypothesis testing is a well-defined scientific procedure which helps us to decide objectively. The result either supports or denotes a hypothesis. From these results, new knowledge may generate. In basic research, testing these prior conceptions or assumptions, making inferences and conclusion about the phenomena leads to the establishment of general laws that deal with scientific method phenomena. Part 3 Basis of Scientific Method. The scientific method is based on certain articles of faith that are reliance on empirical evidence, use of relevant concepts, commitment to objectivity, validity, reliability, generalization, logical reasoning process. 5. Reliance on evidence. Any research question cannot be answered by imagination. The reason is that research is based on the truth and facts. The truth is established on the basis of evidence. Conclusion is admitted only when it is based on evidence. Scientific method of research involves a systematic process. Relevant data is collected through observation or experimentation. Then validity and the reliability of the data are checked carefully, and the data is analyzed using appropriate methods of statistical analysis. Thus, a line of conclusion is drawn on the basis of the result of analysis. Use of concepts. We experience a vast number of facts through our senses. Facts are the things that already exist. In order to deal with it, the concept with specific meaning is used. These concepts are logical constructs or abstracts created by experience. It uses thinking and communication without which clarity and correct understanding cannot be achieved. Commitment to objectivity. Objectivity is the hallmark of the scientific method. It means forming a judgment upon facts unbiased by personal impressions. The conclusions should not vary from person to person. The researcher should not proceed with preconceived notions. He must keep an open mind and be objective. Sometimes, researchers approach the respondents, who are easy to reach and with whom they feel comfortable even though they may not represent the true sample. In this case, the objectivity is sacrificed. Validity. Validity is the ability of a measuring instrument to measure what it is supposed to be measured. A questionnaire is administered to determine the attitudes of the respondents towards a movie. As long as the questionnaire serves this purpose, one can say that the instrument is valid. In physical sciences, the instruments such as barometer, thermometer or foot ruler are used to measure what is meant to be. Also, the measurement can be repeated any number of times by different individuals, but the result will be the same. Reliability. Reliability refers to whether or not the same answer got by using an instrument to measure something more than once. In simple terms, research reliability is the degree to which research method produces a stable and consistent result. Reliability concerns the faith that one has in the data obtained from the use of an instrument, which is the degree to which any measuring tools control random errors. The importance of measuring the accuracy and consistency of research. 6. Instruments is known as validity and reliability. Validity refers to express degree to which a measurement is what purports to measure. On the other hand, reliability refers to the degree to which the results obtained by a measurement and procedure can be replicated. Generalization. Generalization is an essential component in the scientific research process. It is an act of reasoning that involves drawing broad inferences or conclusions from particular observations. The ultimate objective of any research study is to generalize the results to the entire population. Part 4 Logical Reasoning Process. The scientific method involves the logical process of reasoning. This reasoning process is used for drawing inference from the finding of the study or arriving at conclusion. Logical reasoning process consists of two methods: induction, deduction. The logical processes of both induction and deduction are useful in research studies. Both are inseparable parts of the system of reasoning. Both processes are often used simultaneously. Induction is one among the methods of logical reasoning process. This method is followed when new facts are studied. The inductive method consists of studying several individual cases and drawing a generalization. Therefore, induction involves two processes, I. Observation and II. Generalization. Conclusions from induction are tentative inferences, and they are subject to further confirmation based on more evidence. Four conditions are essential to satisfactory induction. They are: observations must be correctly performed and recorded, data collected should be accurate. There must be a sample representative of a specific universe. Number of observations made must be large enough to get reliable results. Conclusions must be confined to inferences drawn from the findings. They should not be generalized to apply to the population. 7. Deduction. Deduction is reasoning process of applying generally accepted principles to a specific individual case falling under the general principle. Essential conditions for valid deduction are: the general rule or assumption must be correct. If it is not correct, then conclusions drawn cannot be correct. The general rule must be applied only to the cases which properly fall under it. Example to understand the logical reasoning process. Suppose a company spends 10 lakhs rupees on regional promotion campaign, but the sales does not increase during or after the promotional campaign. In such conditions, a question may arise on why the required sale didn't increase. The likely answer to this question is that the promotional campaign was poorly executed. This conclusion is an induction because it is known from experience that regional sales should go up during a promotional campaign. The nature of induction is that the conclusion is only a hypothesis and inductive argument is radically different. There is no such strength of relationship between reasons and conclusions in induction. In induction, we can draw conclusions from one or more particular facts or piece of evidence. But deduction is a form of argument that purports to be conclusive, i.e., the conclusion must necessarily follow from the reasons given. These reasons are said to imply the conclusions and represent a proof. In turn, the hypothesis is used in the deduction of further facts which can confirm or deny the truth of the hypothesis. In the deduction process, it is tested whether the hypothesis is capable of explaining the fact. In this example, the company spends on promotional campaign, but the sales didn't increase. Fact 1. Question is, why didn't sales increase? Induction. The conclusion drawn is the hypothesis. The answer to this question is that the promotion was poorly executed. This hypothesis is tested to conclude the process of deduction to confirm the inference, which the sales will not increase during a poorly executed promotion. And one can know from experience that effective promotion campaign will increase the sales. From this example, it is clearly understandable that both induction and deduction are inseparable parts of a system of reasoning. Both are often used simultaneously. There is 8. A sequencing of induction and deduction processes. When there is a research question, one seeks inductively to explain hypothesis. In turn, the hypothesis is used in the deduction of further facts which can confirm or deny the truth of the hypothesis. Part 5. Limitations of applying scientific methods in business research problems. The scientific method is effective in the physical sciences because the researcher can repeat an experiment any number of times to get the same results. But it is not possible in the case of business research. Since the human beings are participants, most of the information obtained in qualitative in nature and it is difficult to quantify it. Many managerial factors, like the behavior aspects in organization, cannot be absolutely tested or verified physically. As a result, the scope of the scientific method in business is profoundly affected. Many management problems cannot be empirically tested, in spite of the extensive use of quantitative techniques in the latter half of this century. At the same time, the scientific method does not find favor with many organizations and functional executives because of the heavy demand it makes on time, exposure, resource, and manpower. Even in science where quantitative, empirical, and scientific methods are extensively employed, the qualitative approach is made simultaneously, thus limiting the importance of scientific method. Business researchers are subjected to pressure. The research is to be completed quickly before competitors enter the market. Due to this pressure, reliability might suffer and face the difficulty in testing the hypothesis. Testing the hypothesis is the core in scientific research, but in business research it is very difficult to control external factors in the field. There are 5 problems faced by researcher regarding validity and reliability of the instrument. In business research, the instrument used is a questionnaire. Different respondents interpret the same question in different manner. So the reply of the respondents will be different. 2. It is difficult to ascertain whether the sample is a representative of the population or not. 3. The same questionnaire administered by different interviewers would provide different results. 4. The measuring instrument, namely the questionnaire, may not clearly state what is being measured. Science experiments are held under controlled conditions, such as temperature, humidity, etc. In business research, it is not possible to control external factors surrounding the 9. Study. For example, the respondent is interviewed on a specific subject. After 2 months, the respondent is interviewed again, and the replay could be very different from what was said earlier. This may happen because of the additional information gathered or the subject would have been discussed with others during this period. What can be done to make business research more scientific? Answer to this question is that the business researcher may focus more on to general characteristics of the scientific method, validity and reliability. Validity is the characteristics used to describe research that measures what it claims to measure. Reliability refers to the ability to consistently produce a given result. It is the characteristic of a research methodology that allows it to be repeated again and again by any researcher, always with the same results. Hence, reliability and validity are two important considerations that must be made with any type of data collection. In the context of business research, this would mean that any instrument or tools used to collect data are consistent and reproducible in possible ways. Conclusion: the scientific method of research consists of observation, formulation of hypotheses and testing of the hypotheses. The basis for scientific method consists of reliance on empirical evidence, use of relevant concepts, commitment to objectivity, validity, reliability, generalization, and logical reasoning process. The logical processes of both induction and deduction are useful in research studies. Both are inseparable parts of the system of reasoning. There are several limitations to apply scientific method in business research problems. Such limitations can overcome by the researcher by concentrating more on validity and reliability factors.